Hey everyone, thanks for joining today. We'll give everybody a couple more minutes to join before we get started, but we'll kick things off in another minute or two. So sit tight for now. Thanks. For those of you who just joined, we'll wait about another minute or so before getting started in case we have a couple of stragglers. We do have a lot to cover today, so we won't wait too long, and hopefully we'll be able to get through everything in our presentation. Okay, why don't we go ahead and get started? Mateo, you want to kick things off for us?
Sure thing. So good morning, everybody. My name is Mateo. I'm the head of marketing services here at Pronto. And today I'm joined by Tim, our managing director. And together we're going to share some practical Google Ads tips with you. But before we get started, I just want to let you know that there is no need for you to take notes today. We, in fact, have sprinkled a few polls throughout the presentation so that we can get a better feel of where you're at today in terms of Google Ads. And in the next couple of days, you're going to receive an email with the recording, with the deck, and every resource that we are going to mention over the next 30 to 40 minutes. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them into the Q&A section of your Zoom window, and we're going to answer them at the end of this live training. Lastly, for those of you who are going to stick around till the end, we're going to offer something really valuable, just like we did during the first couple of webinars of the year. There's no money required, so stick around. Tim, anything you want to add before we kick this webinar off?
One more thing is that we're joined by Pierre as well, the head of our sales and marketing team. He'll be keeping an eye on chat and Q&A, so he might be able to answer some of your questions as we go along. But anything big, he'll queue up for me and Mateo to answer towards the end of the presentation. Okay, first up, we have a pretty basic poll to see what you know about Google Ads, how much experience you have with it. Have you never heard of it before? You know what it is, but you've never had a chance to use it. Or you've tried to run a campaign, but want to learn more, or maybe you ran into some issues, or you're already running a successful campaign and hoping maybe to learn a few advanced things here and there from us to make your campaign even more successful. Give everybody another 10 seconds or so to throw their answers in there. Okay, we got a little bit of a mix here from some who have never used it to all the way to someone who's running a campaign that's already successful. But we will be covering a pretty wide range of topics today, from the very basics up to the specifics of what you should be doing on a regular basis to make your campaign successful. So I think we'll touch on a little bit of everything for everyone today. So like I said, we're going over a lot of things today, covering the basics of what Google Ads is, the best practices for setting up a campaign, the ongoing tasks to optimize a campaign, some common mistakes that you want to avoid, and then a little bit about what we offer and how we can help manage Google Ads, and some time for Q&A at the end as well. So starting things off, what is Google Ads? Well, it's Google's advertising platform. You've almost certainly seen it whenever you're going to Google to search for things. It's typically the first anywhere from 1 to 4 results that show up on a page. In this example on the right here, you can see we have someone who has searched for home insurance, and these first 2 listings circled in red are Google Ads. And you can tell they have the little green ad button next to them. So these are cases where these businesses have set up campaigns within Google. And whenever someone clicks on one of these ads or one of these links, that company will have to pay Google a certain amount for that click that's calculated based on a bunch of different factors. And the value here is that you're showing up right at the top of the page, and you can show up for the keywords that are most important to you. The stuff further below isn't relevant to Google Ads. These are local mapped listings, and then the organic sort of natural listings below that. But ads always get the very top. Sometimes you'll also see them at the very bottom of the page as well. But typically when you're running a campaign, you want to be at the top here. So what are the benefits of using Google Ads, and why should you consider it for your business? Probably the first and most important thing is that it can be super targeted. There's a ton of settings within Google Ads that allow you to target your campaigns on people who have the right intent to buy or at least talk to you about your services or products. So you can narrow it down by the keywords they're searching for. You can even talk about different types of keywords, or when you're targeting, you can think about what is someone going to search for who's just sort of interested in learning versus someone who's ready to buy right now. You might target those ready to buy keywords that are going to be more likely to drive results for you. You can also narrow it down by location and demographics, time of day of the week, device that they're on. So you can get very targeted and very granular in how you're running your campaigns and making sure you're showing your ads to the right people who are most likely to be interested in what you're offering. Google Ads is also very measurable and easily track conversions all the way from how an individual keyword or ad is performing in terms of what's drawing in the most number of clicks to what's actually drawing in leads and then sales as well. So you can really see what's working and what isn't, and then use that data to improve your campaign. And it's fast. And by fast, I mean it's fast compared to a lot of other marketing efforts that you might have out there. Something like SEO or content marketing might take several months or even years to really get to a place where you're happy with the results. With Google Ads, you start showing up in the search results right away. And then from there, it typically takes maybe 3 to 6 months to get your campaign really optimized well and running smoothly. So it does take time to actually get to a point where things are going well, but compared to what it takes for other marketing activities, it's very, very fast. Okay, Matteo, over to you.
So how does Google Ads actually work? Everything actually starts from the users, from people who go into Google and start by typing some keywords, and then they get the results of the query on the search results page. Those results can include paid advertisement that are targeting the keyword that the user has typed into Google. And Google Ads appears at the top, just like Tim said, of the search results, and sometimes even at the bottom after the organic results. But the real value really comes when you bid to appear among the top 3 or 4 paid search results. However, purchasing advertising on Google doesn't necessarily ensure the top spot. After all, you are likely going to have other marketers, other companies competing for the same keywords that you are bidding on through Google Ads. So second step is when the user actually clicks on the ad and is directed to the page designed by the ad owner. In this case, it can be you, it can be other companies, which may be the homepage or a specific landing page related to the ad content. Most local businesses direct their traffic to a specific landing page that generally matches as closely as possible with their ads. And thirdly, we have your landing page and your offer. So your offer needs to be enticing enough so that visitor feel compelled to fill in the form on the site or call you on the number that appears somewhere on that landing page to learn more about the products or services that you offer. So really, it's a three-step process. We have users searching for keywords, we have your ads appearing, and then we have the user clicking and visiting your landing page and taking an action on this landing page.
Real quick, I want to go over some common terms that you'll hear me and Matteo throw around, and you'll hear as you just get more involved in into looking into Google Ads for your business. So the first is a keyword. We've already mentioned this before. This is a word or phrase. It doesn't have to be a single word. It can be an entire phrase, like in the example here of home insurance Chicago, that someone is typing into Google and using that to run their search. So this is the main way that Google Ads works, by targeting these keywords or keyword phrases that people are searching for. Impressions is the number of times your ad was displayed or that it was viewed by searchers. So this means that they saw it, it was displayed on a page for them, but they didn't necessarily take any action. They might not have clicked it. They might have just seen it, scrolled down and clicked something else instead. Clicks is just what it sounds like. It's the number of times an ad, your link on the search results was clicked by a user. And then cost per click is the amount that you pay when that click happens. So I mentioned before that every time someone clicks an advertising link on Google, they pay a certain amount to Google based on a variety of factors and like the level of competition for that keyword. The cost per click is that amount. Can range anywhere from a couple dollars up to a couple $100 for the most competitive keywords. Click-through rate is a pretty simple calculation. It's just the number of clicks divided by the number of impressions. So this tells you the percentage of people who see your ad, what percentage of them are actually clicking it and then going on to your landing page to potentially take some action. And the last one is cost per lead, or sometimes called cost per acquisition. And this is the amount that you spend to get a lead or a form submission on your site or a phone call or whatever your ultimate conversion goal is. So maybe you spend $3,000 in a given month and you receive 10 leads. In that case, your cost per lead is $300. And this is a really, really important one. We'll talk about it more later when you're looking at the success of your campaigns, trying to measure how much ROI you're getting from the campaigns that you're running. And so to bring that all together about where Google Ads fits within your marketing and what you need to know heading into it is that it's very targetable. So you can be super specific. It's really easy to measure your ROI and see how much value you're getting out of your campaign. It's relatively fast compared to other marketing activities, but it does require quite a bit of ongoing management, and it does require a fairly significant investment to keep those ads running. The amount that you should be spending per month will vary depending on your business and your industry and your location, but we typically recommend at least $1,000 per month in ad spend, and it can go sort of endlessly up from there. There are companies that spend several thousands or tens of thousands of dollars per month on their Google Ads campaigns.
Perfect. So let's see how to set up a Google Ads campaign. So we saw before, Tim, can you go to the next slide? We saw before that everything kind of starts from the user going into Google and typing a keyword. On the advertiser side, so on our end, everything starts with keyword research. So we need to really brainstorm our seed keyword list first. We need to pick one of our products or services and think about what people would search when looking for it on Google. So again, this is really simple. Think about the services or products you offer and start from there, and then you can start branching out. You can use tools like Google Keyword Planner, Google Search Console, Ahrefs. These are all tools available. The Keyword Planner and Search Console are free. You can get access to them really easily. Ahrefs is a paid tool, but still it provides competitor data that you can then use to reverse engineer whatever your competitors are bidding on, and then start bidding on those keywords yourself for your own business. Another useful way to start getting ideas and keyword ideas would be to look at your competitors. So everybody knows their own competitors in their local area, so you can start typing their names or the services that they offer or products that they sell, and see if their website comes up in the Google search results. If their website does come up, then that's a keyword that they're probably bidding on, and you can potentially use that too for your own campaigns. And then rinse and repeat. Try and do it again for other products and other services that you offer, and try to come up with as many keywords as possible. That's essentially the very beginning of how you start creating your own campaigns.
Yeah, I think researching keywords almost deserves its own webinar. There's so much you can do to really dig in to find the right keywords. And we don't really have time to go beyond Mateo's explanation today, but there's a ton of tools out there, both free and paid. Typically the three that Mateo mentioned here, the Keyword Planner and Search Console that are free, and Ahrefs, a paid tool, can really get you a lot of information and help you explore. You can take just a handful of keywords that you've brainstormed from your initial list, dump them into those tools, and it'll expand it to a few hundred keywords. And then you can narrow that down, cut out the ones that seem irrelevant to you. So very quickly, you can take a handful of things that come into your head and turn it into a full list of keywords that, that you can build your campaign around. Like I said, there's a lot involved in that, but this is a great place to get started and get you on your way.
And once you have your keywords, now it's time to really structure your actual account in Google Ads. And this is a very critical step in order to make really your campaign efficient and successful once you launch it. So you have your keywords, you have the list of keywords that you're buying, and then you have the ad that you want to show when somebody types in one of those keywords into Google. So now you want to group together the keywords for which you want your ad to be displayed, so that you can create highly relevant ad copy for these keywords and increase the likelihood that the searchers are going to click through those ads. So this is where the campaign planning spreadsheet comes in handy, the ones that we have here, and we're going to give away to everybody participating to this webinar today. And the planning sheet really helps you break down the campaign into ad groups, which are really nothing else than groups of ads that share the same theme and target. And lastly, Google lets you structure your account on another level, higher level, and that is by campaign level. So let's say that your company sells shoes and jackets. You can take all of your ad groups for shoes and put them into the shoe campaign, and then all your jackets ad groups, and then put them into the jacket campaign. So it's important that you structure your campaign, your account in such a way that your keywords and your ad copy are tightly woven together. And then you can start using your ad groups and your campaigns to keep them nicely bucketed and better organized. I know it sounds really complicated, but it's really just a way for you to be able to manage your campaigns and to find out what works and what doesn't work much easier than if you were to just create tons and tons of ad groups and ads all scattered around your account in Google.
Yeah, I think one somewhat common mistake that business owners can make is that Google tries to present Google Ads as this really simple advertising tool. Like, oh, just come in here, create your first ad and start showing up in the search results. And on one hand, that's kind of true. It is pretty easy to go get started on a very simple campaign. But if you want to be serious about Google Ads, you shouldn't just jump in and start building ads and grouping things together in an unorganized way, because Google just wants you to be spending money. Ultimately, they want you to be successful so you can continue spending money, but they want to get you in the door and just say, oh, look how easy it is. You can just set up your first ad right away. But really, organization is one of the keys to making your campaign work. And starting from a position where you've put a lot of research into keywords you want to target, spent time crafting your ad text and reviewing it as a team, and putting it, like Matteo said, grouping it into thematic campaigns and ad groups, which will help later when you're looking at data to see what is and isn't working. So don't worry about this. We'll send you a link to this in to the spreadsheet in our follow-up email in a couple of days. A pretty handy tool. It keeps track of the number of characters in each row so that if you go over, it'll give you a little warning and let you know you have to cut that down, because Google does limit the amount of characters you can have in certain fields in their campaign. Another important thing to note, this is sort of a common mistake as well, is using the right keyword match type. So when you're setting up your campaign, which Matteo will go a little bit more into the step-by-step of that in a little bit, but you'll have to select which keyword, not only which keywords you want to target, but how you want to match for that. And there's 4 different ways to set it up. One is broad match, which we typically recommend avoiding unless you're very familiar with Google Ads. This is something you don't want to be doing. What's really tricky is that broad match is kind of the default. So if you're just throwing in keywords, it's automatically going to be set to broad match unless you specify otherwise. So the problem here is that broad means exactly that, very broad. So an example here, you're targeting the keyword women's hats. Your ad might also show up for something like buy ladies scarves, which might be something you don't even sell. So you have to be very careful about broad match, because it might take something like, oh, this is women's clothing. Let's show this ad for everything that's related to women's clothing. All of a sudden, you've used up your entire campaign budget, and it's all been for irrelevant keywords. Typically, what we start with is modified broad match, which is really narrows it down quite a bit. You add these plus signs in front of it. And then that means that women and hats must be included in that, but there's some room for variations. So if someone's looking for blue hats or wide brim hats, then your ad can still show up for those, but it's not going to be as wide as the general broad match. Phrase match is signified by these quotations, which is a little counterintuitive because we think quotes would mean exact, but that's how phrase match is denoted. And phrase match means that women's hats must appear exactly like that together in the overall search term. So for targeting women's hats, you might show up for buy women's hats for weddings, but blue hats for women would not show up because hats and women are out of order in that case. And then exact match is shown by brackets, and it means that your ad will only show up for that one specific keyword. They have to type exactly that into Google, and you won't show up for anything else. So you use this. We actually use this very often as well. When you know there's a very specific keyword that you want to target, and you've done a lot of research like Matteo is showing in here, there's all these slight variations that you can target. Typically, when we're setting things up, we'll have all of these be exact match so that we have done our research into the exact variations on those keywords that we want to target. Next, Matteo touched on this a little bit about the importance of landing pages in your campaign and how people go from searching on Google to clicking on an ad to then arriving on your landing page and taking some action there. You can point your ads to any page on your site. It could be your home page, could be a services or a product page, but we typically recommend creating a specific landing page just for that campaign, and even narrowing it down even more. You might create a specific page just for that ad group. So let's say one of your ad groups is home insurance, one of our examples from earlier. What Google really wants to see is this consistent flow all the way through, so that someone searches for home insurance, they see your ad, which mentions home insurance, and they arrive on a landing page that talks about home insurance as an offer related to home insurance. You really want to be consistent all the way through. Google does look at the text of your landing pages, and it can impact the performance of your ads. So they want to see that you're sending people to relevant pages, because Google wants their users to have a good experience. They don't want them to click a home insurance ad and end up on a pet insurance page. That's not what they were looking for. That's going to send someone back, and it's a bad experience for everyone involved. I won't go too much into what makes a good landing page, because last month, Matteo and I did a webinar about landing pages, going into this in quite a bit of detail. So once we send these slides out to you, I'd recommend checking out our blog article here that has a recording of that presentation, goes through all the details of what we discussed there. This is a really important part of making sure that the traffic that's coming into your site from Google Ads actually has the opportunity to convert and drive new business for you. And then the next thing you need to keep in mind is setting up conversion tracking. In most cases, this isn't too hard to set up. There's some automatic tracking that gets done in Google Ads. And also, if you're already a Pronto client, we have Google Analytics set up on your site, and it's really easy to connect Google Ads and Google Analytics to pull all of that web traffic data together. But there's one more important thing that you need to consider, which are phone calls. One of the missing pieces in conversion tracking is that someone might arrive on your site, and instead of filling out a form or using your live chat feature or whatever you might have, they look up your number and call you directly. The problem is, once you answer the phone, unless they say, hey, I saw your ad on Google, you have no idea that they actually came from an ad or what keyword they searched for. And that's really valuable information that you don't want to miss out on. So it's important that you have a call tracking solution in place. We offer one for all of our Google Ads clients. And there's a bunch of tools out there that allow you to set up ways for tracking phone calls from your website. Essentially gets routed through a tracking number and then onto your main number. And that allows the tool to see where it came from, and you can connect it all to Google Analytics and Google Ads, so you can count those conversions as well. It's really important that you don't miss out on those, because when you're spending thousands of dollars per month to drive leads, you want to make sure you're counting all of those leads that actually came from your ads.
Perfect. So, well, now it's time to really build a campaign in Google, in the Google Ads backend. And we start with the search network only. Search ads are text ads that are displayed on Google results pages, just like we saw before. And the benefit of search ads is that you are displaying your ad in the place where most searchers look for information first, really, in Google. And Google shows your ad in the same format as other results, like organic results, except for just denoting them with an ad, green ad sign. So users are accustomed to seeing ads and clicking on those results. So we pick the search network, and then next slide, we go and pick our geography. So when you first set up your Google Ads, you'll select a geographical area where your ad will be shown. If you have a storefront, this should be in a reasonable radius around your physical location. If you have a service area business where you go to your clients instead of your clients coming to you, or you sell physical products through your website, for example, your location should be set in the places where you operate, or in the areas where you ship your products to. So this is the second step.
One thing I'll add here real quick is that you do want to be very careful about what you're targeting. And specifically what we've seen a lot with MSPs, a lot of our clients are IT companies, and technically MSPs can provide a lot of their services anywhere in the country. But jumping into that and saying, I'm going to start targeting the entire United States is likely going to be overkill, and not something you want to get into until you've really refined your keywords and your ads to make sure they're working well. So even if it's possible for you to provide services or products on a national level, it might be a good idea to start on a smaller scale, just your state or the metropolitan area, so that you're a little more budget conscious as you're refining your campaign and improving the optimization of it before you expand beyond that.
That's right, Tim. Yeah. Basically, the more cities you're trying to target, the higher your budget will need to be. On top of that, you'll also need to have dedicated landing pages for each of the cities that you decide to target. So if you are based in Los Angeles and you want to advertise in Manhattan, you will have to have a dedicated landing page for that city and a dedicated budget as well. So, and then we have our bid and budget. So you have two options when it comes to bidding on your keywords. You have automated bidding, where Google really puts in is in the driver's seat and allows the platform to just adjust your bid based on your competitors. You can still set a maximum budget, and Google will work within a range to give you the best chance at winning the bid within those constraints. And then you have manual bidding, where manual bidding really lets you set the bid amounts for your ad group and keywords, giving you the chance to really reduce the spending on low performing ads. And just like Tim was saying before, Google does give you the option to just let them do all the work for you, but that also comes with a lot of limitations. And at some point you will find that your ads will not perform better. And then you will have to switch to doing things manually, and that's where you start getting better results.
Mateo, what's your sort of guideline for people who don't know where to start? And is there like a sort of median number that they might pick as their initial bid or budget, and then sort of watch the data from there?
Yeah, so in terms of average CPC, Google tells you per keyword what that is going to be. So if, let's say, we pick IT support, Orange County, for example, the average CPC for that keyword could be somewhere between $20 and $30, something like that. So if I were to say how many, basically I want to find out how many clicks do I desire to get out of that keyword on a daily basis. And then I walk backwards and try to find out how much am I going to be spending if I want to get, let's say, 10 clicks. So $20 times 10, it's probably going to be around $200 a day if I want to get 10 clicks a day.
Yeah. This is another case where the Google Keyword Planner can come in useful for helping you figure some of this stuff out. Or we'll talk a little bit later about our Google Essentials audit, where we can help figure out some of that stuff for you to make sure you're starting your campaign with an appropriate budget.
All right. So we have, just like Tim said, we have different match types for our keywords. We do recommend to start with the exact and modified broad match. So when it comes to, when your ad is displayed, you don't just want to pick a certain group of keyword and have the ad shown only when those keywords are entered in the search engine. Since there are an infinite number of ways that people can actually search for one single term. Google has different keyword match types, as we said, that you can use to give them more specific instructions for when to display your ads. So yeah, exact match, but modified broad match, that's exactly what Tim mentioned before. And you really need to nail it when it comes to your keywords, which is why testing and tweaking should be always part of your strategy. If your keywords are too broad, Google will be placing your ad really in front of the wrong audience, which means fewer clicks, higher cost, and much fewer conversions that you would want. And at the end, you're going to be presented with a confirmation screen where you just really need to make sure that all the information you've entered thus far are correct, and then just press launch and publish, and your campaign will go live.
Okay, and once you've launched your campaign, your work's not done. You do need to continually put in effort to optimize your campaign. And as long as there is sort of an initial hump you have to get over when you've first launched, and takes a lot of effort, and that sort of gets a little bit easier along the way. But Google Ads is never a set and forget sort of thing. Even when your campaign's been running for years, you do want to be paying attention to it and regularly checking in to make sure things are running smoothly. So we've created a pretty simple checklist here of what you should be doing on a daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly basis. On the daily basis, you want to be looking at how keywords are performing. So you might go into your ad campaign, look at the performance of individual keywords, and decide whether you need to make changes to that keyword or not, to any underperforming keywords. That might mean pausing a keyword that the click-through rate is too low, or it might mean just adjusting the bid on that. Maybe your ad isn't showing high enough up on the page to get enough clicks for it to be really useful for you. So in this case, here's 2 keywords that are doing fairly well at a 5% click-through rate and a 2.8% click-through rate. But this one in the middle is clearly lagging behind at 1.47. So that needs a little bit more research into what's going on there. Is that something we still want to be spending money on, or is there something wrong about how we're targeting that keyword that needs to change to improve the results later? We also want to add negative keywords. This is something shows up on the settings here under your keyword settings. There's an option to add these negative keywords, which tells Google, do not show my ad for this specific keyword. So on a regular basis, especially at the very beginning of your campaign, you want to be logging in and going to this search terms report here. And what the search terms report shows you is the exact words that people are using to find when your ads show up. So if you've used broad match or phrase match or even modified broad match, you still likely will get some irrelevant search terms coming in, people who search for some random thing and it's not relevant to you. But then you can go in and say, I want to mark this as a negative keyword, and your ad will stop appearing for that. That way you're not wasting money in the long run on these irrelevant clicks that have nothing to do with your business. And then you want to look for new search terms to add. So again, when you're looking at that search terms report, you're not only looking for ones that are irrelevant that you want to mark as negative keywords, but you want to look for ideas of new keywords to target. Maybe someone searched for something that you hadn't expected and you realize, oh, this could turn into a whole new ad group because it's one that I hadn't thought of before, but I really do want to be targeting that. Next, on a weekly basis, you want to make sure you're not spending too much. Take a look at your overall budget, how much you're spending per click on average, how much you've spent in total for that week, and make sure you're not above or below what your target budget is. In some cases, you might actually end up not spending enough. Your targeting isn't broad enough, or you've narrowed down your geography to too small of a location. There's not enough search volume for the keywords you're targeting. And these are all signs that something is going wrong for your campaign. If you're maxing out your budget every time, it might mean you're going too broad. If you're not spending enough, it might mean you're not going broad enough. So got to find that right balance in there. On a monthly basis, you want to be looking at ad performance. So one of the things we recommend, I'm not going to scroll all the way back to the campaign setup spreadsheet, but in that spreadsheet, we always have 2 ads right next to each other. So every ad group always has 2 ads running at the same time. And they're just slight variations on each other using different phrases or different calls to action. And after a month, you want to take a look at how each of these competing ads performed and which one performed better and which one performed worse. So after about a month, you should have enough impressions and enough clicks to have a good idea of which one is working and which isn't. And then you should pause the one that is not working and create a new competitor that's a slight variation on the winner. That way you're always testing back and forth of which ads are running the best and driving the highest click-through rate for you. Again, on the monthly level, you want to be paying close attention to keywords and taking those search terms and expanding them into full ad groups. So you might have taken a keyword that you noticed earlier, a search term you noticed earlier, and said, I'm going to kick off a whole nother round of keyword research. I'm going to go put this into the Google Ad Planner and see what ideas it comes up with and build some new ad groups around that, because I think this is a really interesting thing to target. And also on a monthly level, you want to be paying attention to your conversions. So this, depending on your website, this might be form submissions or phone calls or purchases of your product, free trials that people are signing up for, all that kind of stuff. You want to count all that together and look at your cost per lead. And one important thing to do here is figuring out what is a good cost per lead for your business. That goes into a few points that we won't dig into today of determining the lifetime value of one of your clients. So there's some math you can do to work backwards based on if a client is worth $10,000 to you and it costs you a certain amount to obtain that client, how do you make sure that client is going to be valuable, have a positive ROI in the long run? So you should always be paying attention to your cost per lead and relating it to actual business results as well, which I'll get into here. And once a quarter, you want to do a more detailed deep dive into performance. So looking at some of the more granular aspects of targeting within Google Ads, where you might say, okay, it seems like Tuesdays are the days that our ads perform best. So let's increase our average bid on Tuesdays and decrease it on Saturday and Sunday, which tend not to be that good. You might really dig into the time of day or device or different locations and see what is and isn't working and adjust your campaign based on that. And last, perhaps the most important thing ties back into that lifetime value sort of thing. You want to make sure you're actually getting a positive ROI. And so that involves not only just looking at form submissions or phone calls that you've received, but whether those leads you've generated have actually turned into people signing up for your services or buying your products. So depending on your sales cycle, you might want to do this even once a month if you have a quicker sales cycle. If you're in B2B, it's probably more like once per quarter. So you have time for those leads that have come in to go through your sales process, have all the meetings and calls that need to happen, and then sign up later. But it's very important that you pay attention to what those actual results are, because there's a difference between someone submitting a form and someone who's actually paying your business. It's so much more important to be able to look at, here's this new client we got. Let's trace the steps backwards. They went to this landing page and filled out this form. They arrived on that landing page by clicking this ad, which was targeting this keyword. Now you know that keyword is really valuable because that one actually has the ability to drive new business for you. And even when we're working with our own clients, we ask them to provide feedback on the quality of those leads and whether any of those, the form submissions or phone calls they received turned into paying customers, because that's what really this is all for, that you're trying to drive new business. So don't forget about that last aspect of tying it into your sales as well. Anything you want to add there, Matteo?
You covered pretty much everything. Yeah.
Cool. So a quick checklist of everything you need to do, just paying attention to keywords and costs, ad performance, adding and removing keywords that you want to target, and then really getting into deep diving into lead quality and how each aspect of your ads and campaigns are performing.
Let's look at some common mistakes when it comes to running Google Ads campaign. I won't talk about all of this. I'll focus on the two most important on this slide. And one is definitely the poor ad group organization. We touched on this just at the beginning of the presentation, and how your campaign and ad groups are created and set up are some of the probably most important factors when it comes to improving your click-through rate, the quality score, and general performance of your campaign. Using the wrong setup makes your account and campaigns really, really hard to manage. Having too many keywords per ad group is definitely one of the biggest mistakes. So when you add too many keywords in a single ad group, which is what we said before, it's a group of keywords within a certain that are pretty much encompassing a certain theme. You run the risk of showing ads that can't possibly relate to all your keywords. So ad group success really boils down to one major factor, and that is simplicity, specificity, just like Tim mentioned before. And another one, in my opinion, really important here is not testing ad variations. Writing ads on Google Ads is kind of a tiring process. You have character limits, and writing anything compelling in a short limit, in a short, like few words, can feel almost next to impossible sometimes. Due to this, most people really write only a single ad and then move on. And after all you really need is a great ad, right? Yes and no. According to Google, you should always create specific ad groups with at least 3 ads. You can find that in the Google guidelines. Generally, that's what Google recommends. Why do you need so many ads? Because your ad groups will automatically rotate and show the ads that perform the best. It's almost like A/B testing, and Google does this automatically once you create and write multiple ad variations. So these to me are the 2 most important common mistakes that I generally encounter. And then on the next slide, I would say one of the most important ones as well is sending traffic to the homepage only. Again, we had a webinar about landing pages last week. Landing pages are an essential piece of the Google Ads puzzle. Like we mentioned again in the webinar, those are the pages that are specifically designed to funnel visitors towards taking a single action. And that could be either picking up the phone, calling you, or filling out a form. Home pages, on the other hand, are mostly meant to educate visitors about your business, the services or products that you offer, about your team, the locations, and all that type of stuff. So really, sending traffic only to the home page is almost like a waste of money because people, once they land on that page, they don't really have a single focus. They start reading, and most likely they're gonna jump off or visit other pages, but not convert necessarily.
Yeah,
and lastly,
sorry, I was going to say one thing real quick is that these common mistakes, like when a new client comes to us and has us take over their existing campaign, I would say 80% of the time we're just going and undoing these common mistakes. I think that's accurate, Matteo.
Yeah, I would say so.
And it's like not making these mistakes is enough to move the needle in a significant way, where you'll see click-through rates and conversion rates go up after you've reorganized things or sent it to the right pages or been testing ads for a few months in a row. All of that adds up over time to really significant improvements.
Totally. Yeah. And
sorry, I cut you off there. Go ahead.
No worries. Yeah, just maybe another one that I would like to touch on. And you mentioned about this before. We talked about Google allowing people to run campaigns automatically, but not managing the campaign actively is actually a pretty common mistake. Google Ads can be run automatically with smart campaigns, where really Google just handles most of the work. But this method of running Google Ads is available, well, first of all, only for local businesses with stores or online e-commerce shops. But anyway, Smart Campaign is a super simplified way of running Google Ads campaign. And you will eventually hit limitations with that. And so by learning how to run campaigns manually, that unlocks a completely new world and a completely new way of setting your bids and just generally managing your campaign top to bottom.
One thing I'll add, which I don't know if this really qualifies as a mistake, but something to keep in mind as you're running a campaign is that often after you've started your campaign, a representative from Google will reach out to you and talk about how they can jump in and help you improve and optimize your campaign. And a lot of the times, I mean, Google does want you to be successful. If you are running a successful campaign, you're going to continue running ads with them in the long run. So that it's not that they're trying to trick you, but a lot of the recommendations that they tend to give you are ones that are going to cause you to spend more money on their ads. So it's adding additional features or widgets into your ads. And you have to be careful about blindly following what they say, because they're ultimately Google's trying to make more money out of this. And even though they do want you to be successful, those ad reps are typically just based on goals of getting someone to spend more money on their campaign. So it's not that everything they recommend is bad, but you want to take the things they say with a grain of salt, and make sure you're doing what's right for you specifically, not just what they are saying is what everybody else does. Okay, we only have less than 10 minutes left, so I'll be pretty quick about these next couple of slides. But I know we covered a lot today, and it maybe is a little overwhelming. We do offer a Google Ads management service where we take care of all of this for you, everything from the initial setup and planning to the ongoing optimization and the reporting, and all that kind of stuff that leads to successful campaigns. We charge $500 a month, and you pay your ad budget directly to Google on top of that. We typically recommend an ad budget of at least $1,000, but that varies depending on your business and location and a few other factors. Our campaigns are managed by certified specialists. They've passed all of Google's tests to be experts at running campaigns. And we've done this for several years now and for hundreds of businesses. And we have a lot of experience in running successful Google Ads campaigns. A couple of quick case studies. I won't go in too much in depth. When we share these slides with you, these all link to full case studies that you can read more about. But they're examples of campaigns that we've taken over and have resulted in significant increases in conversions after we've cleaned up those campaigns, fixed some of those common errors, reorganized things to follow the best practices that we recommend. And like Matteo and I were saying earlier, those sorts of things really can move the needle in driving more clicks and more conversions, and thus more sales for your business. And that brings us to our special offer for this webinar, which is a free Google Essentials audit. We typically charge $200 for this, and it includes a dive into if you're running an ads campaign, we'll take a look at that, but we'll also do some research on your competitors to see what they're up to, and help you plan your budget and what keywords you should be targeting, and sort of set you off on the right foot if you want to go off and run your ads on your own, or it prepares us if you want to have us manage your campaign as well. It also includes, on top of Google Ads stuff, we look at local SEO. So we'll look at your Google My Business listing and your competitors with that again, and make some recommendations there, and organic SEO. So we're looking at your backlinks, the optimization of your pages, and giving some recommendations about how you can improve in the organic results on Google as well. Those are the three big areas of Google that businesses are targeting and want to be driving results in. So this covers all of them and can help you decide which area is best for you to target and invest in with your marketing budget. We have a link here for you to sign up and a discount code for you to use. Again, we'll follow up with all of this in a couple of days. So it'll be easy for you to find all this stuff and move forward with it. And that brings us to our Q&A. We have one question from David, and I'm interested to what you say about this, Matteo. If you are in LA and want to get the suburbs like Costa Mesa or Newport Beach, should we have landing pages for each and tracking number for each?
Yes, you should definitely have landing pages and tracking numbers for both locations. Just like we mentioned before, once you set up your call tracker and conversion tracker, you are going to be able to really find out whether your searchers come from those locations and what type of keywords they tap into Google to find your business. So definitely yes.
Yeah. One thing about the tracking numbers, maybe it depends a little bit on how broad of an area you're targeting, or how, I don't know the right word for it, but like, do people in Costa Mesa identify themselves as living in Los Angeles or not? If not, they say, oh, we're in Orange County. Then you want to have that specificity so that they feel like you're targeting them directly, not someone who's 45 minutes away or an hour and a half on the LA freeways. Or you could think about the area code as well. So you might have a different tracking code if you're targeting people in a different area code. That way they feel like you're local and are perhaps more likely to take action when they see how specific you're being for them. Another question here, how many ad groups do you recommend having per campaign, and how many keywords do you recommend having per an ad?
So generally, I would say we work with, for budget up to $1,500 a month, we build 2, maximum 3 ad groups, and we try to keep those ad groups really clean with maybe 1 to 3 keywords per ad group max. A few years ago, we were actually running campaigns with 15 ad groups, and it was very unmanageable. Once we started trimming down the number of ad groups and keywords per ad group, our performance per campaign have improved significantly across all of our clients. So generally, no more than 3 campaigns. I would say 1 ad group per $500 of budget that you spend, and 1 keyword per ad group, maybe 2.
Great. I have a question for you from me, Matteo, and not from one of our attendees. But oftentimes I hear people asking about fraudulent clicks, or they're worried about competitors going in and sort of running up their advertising bill and wasting their ad budget on these irrelevant or spam, or sometimes it's bots. What do you recommend doing about that? Or is it really even an issue that people need to be worried about?
That's a good question. I guess Google does examine the clicks that come in through the search network. So if there are any fraudulent clicks, and those fraudulent clicks happen often, I believe there is a way to contest those clicks to Google and get refunded the budget that got spent through those fraudulent clicks. But generally, I wouldn't worry too much about competitors trying to click on my ads in order to let me spend money. I mean, it's
a big waste of
competitors'
time.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't really heard many times from our clients stories like this, really. Okay. And I don't think it really happened much to us either when we run our own Google Ads campaigns.
Yeah. Okay, there's only 2 minutes left in the hour, so we'll go ahead and wrap things up here. Thank you everyone for joining. If you have other questions that pop into your head about Google Ads or anything related to online marketing or websites, feel free to email me and Matteo directly. We're happy to answer questions or jump on calls and talk things through with you. And like we've mentioned several times already, we'll get an email out to everybody in the next day or 2. And we'll have a recording of all this and links to everything. And we look forward to talking to you more. Okay, thanks everyone.
Thank you, everyone.